Your team doesn't disrespect you. That's the story most managers tell themselves. The truth is usually worse. Your team has stopped taking you seriously, not openly. Nobody stands up during a meeting and says, "You are not my leader anymore." It happens quietly. Someone questions a decision that was already made. Someone ignores a deadline. Someone looks at your boss before responding to you. Someone smiles and does the opposite of what you asked. And the frightening part? You may have trained them to do it. Not intentionally, but every time you tolerated something you shouldn't have. Today I asked General Roy a simple question. How do good managers accidentally teach people to ignore them? His answer was uncomfortable. Let's go. General, every week I hear from managers describing the same pattern, the slow fade. Their team does not rebel. There is no open mutiny. They just stop following. Most of these managers think they need more charisma, more executive presence. Is that the right diagnosis?
No. And here is where I am going to be uncomfortable. The problem is not that you lack charisma. The problem is that you stopped leading and started campaigning. In truth, they are treating a structural fracture with a cosmetic band-aid. The disease is psychological, and it starts with what I call the candidate syndrome. Instead of acting like a pilot, whose job is to land the plane safely, you started acting like a politician the night before an election. Before every decision, your first thought is no longer, "Is this effective?" It becomes, "Will they still like me tomorrow?" It is like hosting a dinner party and letting your guests trash the kitchen just so they will leave a good review of the evening.
That image is painfully accurate. But where does it come from? Because let's be honest, nobody wakes up one morning and says, "Right, today I'm going to be a weak leader."
I am not judging, Valerie. I am diagnosing. It comes from a very human place. Nobody wants to be disliked. Nobody enjoys tension. So you over-adapt. You soften every message. You avoid hard conversations. You become diplomatic, with behaviors that should be confronted. And the team detects this emotional dependency instantly. They understand, if I push hard enough, he backs down. If I show disapproval, he changes course. From that moment, your authority is no longer a fact. It is a negotiation, and you will lose that negotiation every single time, because you need their approval more than they need your leadership.
So the real problem is not that the manager is too nice. It is that the team cannot tell anymore what is real, what will actually be held.
Exactly. Your team does not lose respect because you are kind. They lose respect because they no longer know what counts, what will be enforced, and who is actually in charge when things get hard. And that is when something very dangerous happens. Picture this: a team meeting. A conflict breaks out between two departments. Everyone looks at the manager because they are waiting for arbitration. They are waiting for someone to decide. But the manager hesitates. He does not want to upset anyone. He does not want to create tension, so he stalls. He says something vague like, "Let's take this offline," or "I'll think about it." And in that exact moment, the arbitrator's chair is suddenly empty.
And someone else sits in it.
Immediately. The loudest voice in the room, the senior expert, the office politician, someone fills that vacuum. Because power is not a title, it is energy. And a vacuum does not exist. If you do not exercise your power, it does not disappear. It transfers to someone else. The manager is still physically sitting at the head of the table. He still has the title on his business card. But he has become a spectator of his own team. And once the team has seen that, they do not forget it. They may keep smiling, but they remember.
So the authority drained because the manager refused to arbitrate. But how did he get there? Because no manager wakes up one morning and decides to abandon his chair.
It happens by omission. And it follows one iron law that most managers break every single day. Think about a substitute teacher.
Oh, I have a feeling I know where this is going.
The substitute walks in, first day. He wants to be the cool teacher. So when a kid starts talking in the back of the class, he lets it slide. He thinks, "I do not want to be the tough guy on day one." 5 minutes later, 3 kids are talking. 10 minutes later, half the class is on their phones. By noon, he has lost control for the entire school year. Not because the kids are terrible, because he defined the standard in the first 5 minutes. And the standard he installed was, "Here, the rules are optional. In management, it is the same. The manager sees a team member showing up late every day and says nothing, because he does not want to ruin the vibe. This is the iron law. What you tolerate, you validate. Every eye roll you let pass, every deadline that slips without a word, every passive-aggressive comment you pretend not to hear, you are not keeping the peace. You are signing a permission slip for insubordination.
But General, every manager has to pick their battles. Because if you start flagging every tiny thing, you become a micromanaging nightmare.
You are right. You do not chase every detail. A task done slightly differently, that is a work issue. Let it go. But a behavior that challenges who holds the frame, a sigh in a meeting, a decision quietly bypassed, a rule publicly ignored, that is not a detail. That is the foundation. The substitute teacher did not lose his classroom over content. He lost it over the framework. And then comes the second stage. The manager starts negotiating his own decisions. He makes a call. Someone questions it. And instead of holding the line, he rephrases. He explains again. He seeks consensus on something that was already decided. He thinks he is being collaborative. His team sees instability. The line between collaboration and capitulation is timing. Before the decision, listen to everyone. Debate. Challenge. But after the decision, it is over. Execute. The moment you reopen a decision because someone pouts, you have taught the team that every call is negotiable. And if everything is negotiable, nothing is decided. Everything I just described happens below the surface, in what I call the power zone and the affect zone. That is where authority lives and dies. The visible work, the tasks, the reports, that is just the tip of the iceberg. The real erosion happens underneath, where you cannot see it until the ceiling collapses.
Quick note, if you are feeling this erosion right now and you want to know exactly where you stand, the General Roy app runs the diagnosis for you. Framework problem, credibility problem, emotional dependency, free to start. Link in the description. All right, General, I understand the disease and the mechanism. But how does the manager rebuild? Because some managers do hold the frame. They set rules. They talk about standards. And their team still does not follow. What is broken there?
The mirror. The manager demands punctuality, but walks into meetings 5 minutes late. He demands quality, but sends sloppy emails full of typos. He demands transparency, but makes decisions behind closed doors. And the team says nothing. They just stop following, quietly. Because here is what they are thinking. Why should I follow a rule that the person who made it does not even follow? This is the coherence audit. Take 3 rules you impose on your team. For each one, answer honestly. Am I exemplary on this? If not, fix yourself first. Then go see the person who has been testing you the most. Not to apologize, to reset the frame. Say this: I was not exemplary on this. I am fixing it starting now. I expect the same from you. That is not vulnerability. That is command.
But that takes serious confidence. Most managers are terrified of admitting a flaw in front of their team.
Because they confuse ego with self-esteem. The ego is cardboard armor. It looks impressive, but collapses at the first criticism. The ego needs to be right. Self-esteem is steel plating. It is quiet. It accepts errors, because the mission matters more than the image. Self-esteem needs to succeed. The ego says, I need to look perfect. Self-esteem says, I need us to succeed. And if admitting a mistake helps us succeed, I will do it right now, in front of everyone.
All right, the tolerance is audited and the coherence is fixed. But what about the moment of truth? Monday morning, you are in a meeting and someone sighs when you give a directive, or someone makes a sarcastic comment and the whole room goes quiet. What do you actually do in that second?
That second is everything. Most managers commit one of 2 fatal mistakes in that moment. Either they freeze, they pretend they did not see the eye roll, and the team logs another data point. The standard is theater. Or they explode, because they have been swallowing frustration for weeks. And this sigh is the last drop.
The pressure cooker effect.
Exactly. Silence accumulates, and when it explodes, it is always disproportionate. A commander is a thermostat. He sets the temperature. Whatever the pressure, he absorbs the chaos and projects calm. Before you open your mouth in a tense room, take 3 seconds. A decompression airlock. 3 seconds to calibrate.
Wait, 3 seconds? Really? That sounds like nothing.
It is the difference between an explosion that destroys trust and a directive that gets followed. Now, the technique. The moment someone sighs or makes a passive remark, you stop talking. Not aggressively, calmly. You let 3 seconds of silence fill the room. Everyone feels it. Then you say, "I am going to pause here. Mark, I noticed something. It seems like there is a disagreement, and that is fine. In this room, disagreements go on the table, not under it. Do you have an objection right now? If yes, let's hear it. If not, we move forward."
But does that not create a terrible atmosphere? Because you've still called someone out in front of the whole team.
Cynicism hates the spotlight. Sarcasm, eye-rolling, sighing, these are shadow behaviors. They survive only when nobody names them. The moment you put a light on them, they shrink. But there is a second step, and it is non-negotiable. After the meeting, you call that person into your office, privately, and you separate the person from the behavior. You say, "I pulled you up in the meeting. I want to be clear about why. It is not your disagreement that bothers me. I actually need your critical thinking. But sarcasm and eye-rolling is sabotage. It drowns your message. From now on, bring me your objections straight. But the background noise, it stops." That is the after-sales service. You never leave a relational wound open after a public intervention. You clean it, you protect the person, and you make the new rule crystal clear.
General, let's make this operational. What does the manager watching this do in the next 48 hours?
3 actions, 48 hours, no excuses. Action 1. Tonight, the tolerance audit. A sheet of paper, 2 columns. List every behavior you have been letting slide. Pick the one that damages the framework the most. Tomorrow, you address it. Not with a speech, not with a joke, with a fact and a standard. Action 2. Tomorrow morning, the coherence audit. 3 rules you impose on your team. Check, honestly, if you are exemplary on all 3. If you are not, fix yourself first. Then go deliver the reset. I was not exemplary, I'm fixing it. I expect the same. Action 3. Your next meeting, the pause button drill. The first time someone sighs, smirks, or makes a passive remark, you stop. 3 seconds of silence. You surface it. Do you have an objection? Put it on the table, otherwise we continue. Then, after sales service in private.
And the field exercise?
1 question. Write it down. Answer it before you go to sleep tonight. What is my team actually learning from my behavior? Not from my words, not from my intentions, not from my policies, from my behavior. I know that question is uncomfortable, but that discomfort is the sound of clarity returning. And clarity is the first thing a commander gives his unit.
So let me bring this back to you, whoever is watching this right now. Because maybe you've been feeling it too, that slow leak of authority. And maybe until now, you thought the answer was charisma, more confidence, more presence, talking louder, some new management technique, but that is not what this is about. This is about what you have been tolerating, whether your behavior actually matches your words, and whether people feel stability when pressure rises around you. Because there is one line General Roy said that honestly stayed in my head. Authority is not dominance. It is predictability. Your team does not need a tough guy. They need someone whose behavior still makes sense when things become difficult. Now, if you want to go deeper on your specific situation, if you want the tactical diagnosis, the right posture, and the exact script for your next difficult conversation, open the General Roy app. It is free to start. Link is right here in the description. General, last word?
People do not follow confidence. They follow consistency. Go fix your framework. It is your turn to lead.